You are going to have a red letter day. Today, we have a special guest who's going to teach us sculpting. Mardie Rees, welcome to whatever the name of the show is. We don't have a name.
You don't? How come?
Well, I don't know. I just never had a name. I thought, I started doing this with COVID quarantine. I thought I'd be doing it a week. It's 303 days as of today. So, Mardie, what are you going to do for us today?
Well, I thought I'd sculpt David's eye by Michelangelo.
Oh, really? I'd love to see that.
That.
So, Mardie, just so you know, yeah, pull it out so we can see it.
Yeah, I thought we'd have some fun with this.
Oh, that's great. Yep. I'd love to. I'm looking forward to that. Wow, that's pretty big. Okay. Well, we're going to learn that. Mardie is an incredible sculptor. I'm going to show you some of her work. She just does beautiful, beautiful sculpting. And, the one thing, if you're a painter, you need to consider sculpting because it will help you with your form and help you see things differently. Look at that. That's absolutely incredible. What do they call those when it's kind of a sculpture in a flat surface like that? Is that a
this is kind of considered a three-dimensional high relief, low relief. So you can see the Bougainville Island in the background, the palm trees and all this. This is representing World War II.
That's beautiful. And what is this material here in this sculpture?
This is kiln cast glass, and this piece I cast in my studio kiln. It's a similar process to the lost wax method of bronze, but it's glass instead. So
okay. So you make a clay sculpture, and then you do a cast of it, and then you pour the glass into the cast, essentially.
Yeah. You make a wax like you would make for a bronze, but you melt out the wax just like you do for bronze, except glass pours in like honey, bronze pours in like water. So glass is a very tricky medium and is very difficult to do on your own, but it is possible, especially if you're determined.
Okay. Well, your work is beautiful. Let's get right into it. I want to see you sculpt an eye.
Okay. Sounds good.
Now, I got to tell you that you got me inspired when you were at the FACE conference, and I have been playing with clay a little bit. It's been just a giant disaster, but I guess I need to take some of your online courses or something.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is the time to try something new. I've been painting this last year, and after
congratulations.
Primarily sculpting for 20 years, so it's really fun. I love to experiment, and sculpture is just a really great way to engage in what is dimensional, to really understand it all the way. So that's why I thought.
Okay, well, let's get right into the eyeball here, and I've turned the camera over to you.
All right.
Okay.
So we're gonna be really looking at like the eye is like the window to the soul. We all love the eye, but when we start drawing it and painting it, it's really hard to actually see the dimension of it and fully understand it. So I'm gonna sculpt it big so you all can see. And let me grab my sculpture stand here. Make sure you guys can see. And I just fleshed out the initial dimensions so you can see that.
Okay, tell us about the clay. What kind of clay do you use?
Well, I use everything, but today we're going to be working in terracotta. So, and I really like terracotta because it dries a little bit faster. It's a little bit more rigid.
Is that just a big block of clay, or is it
a big block of clay? Yeah.
Okay, so there's no structure underneath it.
No, that's what's kind of nice about it. So I just cut some clay out of here, right out of this bag of clay, and I threw it on here, and I just tried to block in the initial shapes, so you can kind of see.
We can't see your reference. It's blocking the view of the reference.
Here. So you can kind of see that I'm trying to block in that initial shape here. I mean, we're dealing with an eye without the nose. This is really representing like the inside here.
Right.
And without the nasal bone and all those things. But we are seeing the zygomatic arch, the orbital here. And that's primarily the first place to start when you're sculpting or drawing, is to really be thinking about the orbital and the bone itself. So,
Okay.
so I measured it out. Everything in sculpture can be measured with calipers. So these are my calipers. These are the cheapest kind you can get. You can measure them this. You can measure this way, and you can cross measure this way. So I'm just gonna quickly.
What does cross measure mean?
Well, I can cross them like that, as you can see.
Yeah.
And it's really great for height. So if I wanted to just place the center of the pupil there, I can do it that direction. Or
And where do you get calipers? Is there, I guess there's probably Sculpture Supply.
Yeah, Complete Sculptor is great. I love these calipers too. These are from Italy. And they're just fantastic in terms of the quality. So I kind of use both of them. These are just great for just working fast, and they really, are like $10 or something like that.
Yeah.
So I measure everything. So I just measured out my general dimensions of my eye. So I draw and I kind of write out things like I'm an architect, so that I always have this to reference when I'm working quickly.
Okay.
So
I'm excited about this.
I'm just going to go ahead and lay it out here. So just tell me if you can't see it all. This terracotta is a little bit dark.
Yeah, that helps. When you turn it, the light tends to go away. So
yeah. So let's see what I can do here. So I'm just going to kind of place my eye. I wanted to double check.
Good idea. We can move it over a little further. We could see it.
Okay.
I'll do
that.
Okay. Well, while she's doing that, I just want to say hi to everybody. It's day 303. I'm Eric Rhoads from Fine Art Connoisseur and Plein Air Magazine. Today, our prize winner of the Plein Air apron is Jane Wright Wolf from Connecticut. So Jane Wright Wolf will be sending you the Plein Air apron. And today's prize is my book, Make More Money Selling Your Art. So the way to win prizes is to leave comments, tell us where you're from, and we will grab someone randomly and give them that book. All right. If you would follow me, that'd be great. It's Eric Rhoads. Follow me on Instagram or Facebook. Thank you. Okay, Mardie, it's all yours.
All right. Sounds great. So the big thing with placing an eye is you want to find the inside and the outside of the eye. I usually always work the eyes together because it's very easy to fall in love with the look of one eye, and then you have to do them both. Then you have to eliminate one to work them together and get them to pair. So I'm just going to kind of place the ball here. And in David's eye, he's looking, this is his right eye that I'm sculpting currently. And his eye is turned. He's not looking straight out. So that's really the gesture that I'm going to be trying to capture here.
Do you heat up your clay to make it softer?
This is water-based clay. So I don't. Oil clay, yeah, if I work in a harder clay, but I have always really liked to work quickly and be able to move things around easy. Okay. And so the oil clay that I make is pretty soft and acts a lot like.
You say oil clay that you make. You make your own oil clay?
I do, yeah.
How do you do that?
It's a variety of cheese wax, wax making cheese and Vaseline, baby oil, and powdered clay.
Powdered clay.
Yeah.
You know, I bought a bunch of oil clay. I don't know if it was you who told me to or not, but and I sculpted with it, but it as it dried, it got very brittle, and
Oh,
I don't know why.
the oil kind of goes sort of to the center of the clay, and so it actually has some similar benefits to water clay, because as water clay gets as it becomes more dry, it becomes harder, and there's advantages to sculpting it when it's a little bit harder.
Okay. We have somebody tuning in from Costa Rica, someone from
Wonderful.
Brazil. I have never been to either of those places. I want to go. New Zealand. Hello, New Zealand.
Wow. Anybody from Ecuador yet?
I don't know. I haven't seen Ecuador yet.
Okay.
A lot of people don't tell us where they're from. They just sit back quietly and you know, there's more people watching than they are commenting. The Netherlands, The Hague, Netherlands.
Oh yeah, love the Netherlands.
Gerda. Hey, Gerda. Thank you for that beautiful package you sent me the other day. I think I sent you a note, but thank you again.
So a lot of the tools I make myself, sculptors are kind of known for using anything. So a lot of times I'll take tools like things right out of my kitchen and start using it. And then I have to go replace that kitchen item. But this tool is one of my favorites, and it's just a piece of plywood with a bevel on it that I sanded.
Oh yeah.
It's just great for really getting in there and nailing those planes. So that's really going to be beneficial here, is I'm really blocking out this space. I really want to kind of get the bone structure that's around the eye here.
You know the sculptor George Carlson, who eventually, I think he wore his body out doing those giant sculptures, you know, 30-foot pieces and so on.
Yeah.
And he finally went to painting, but he said to me, if you learn sculpture, you will instantly become a better painter, because it just helps you in so many ways.
Yeah, I find that often when I'm painting, I'm like, it doesn't look dimensional, and that tells me I've got to keep going, that I haven't quite gotten it yet. And it irritates me if it doesn't look dimensional, because I know how I would do it if I could touch it and move it around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you sculpt with paint.
Yes.
Hello, Derbyshire, England. It's probably Derbyshire. I don't know. I probably am pronouncing it wrong.
I'm really trying to get the superior orbital here before I go ahead and put in the eyelids. So I really want that structure to be sound. Otherwise, jumping ahead, I'll just have to go back.
So you got to start out with a strong foundation.
Exactly.
So in terms of if somebody's trying to learn on their own, or they're trying to figure it out on their own, do you recommend starting with something like a plaster cast like that, or what would be the first thing they should start with?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, working from life is really great, but it's very hard to get somebody to sit still for you long enough to actually get somewhere. I've been using a lot of scanned work as well as working from these plaster casts, because it's possible to measure it, see it, understand it, all of those kinds of things, and be able to kind of hone your skills so that when you are working from life, you could nail it quicker, faster.
Somebody is asking, says the way you use calipers looks different from what I anticipated. Could you possibly elaborate on how you use them?
Yeah. Well, one thing that I think is really important, a lot of times students will measure their sculpture and then check the measurement. Usually your clay, until you've really worked a long time, usually your sculpture is off in some way. So it's better to measure first. If you know the measurement. So for example, measuring the width of the eye. So here I'm going to measure like the inner and medial and lateral canthus tendon, which is really the base of the eye, inside and outside. So I measure that right there. And I can write this down. A lot of times sculpture has a size that you're going for. You work a third from life size. So whatever you're working from, you may be working smaller or larger. In this case, I'm working direct scale, which makes it so much easier because whatever I measure here is going to exactly match what I measure here. But often I'll just write it down. So I'll just place my calipers right on the ruler right there. And I'm coming in at 4 3/8. So then I would write that down, and then I don't have to measure that again. I just look at what I wrote down. I measure out 4 3/8, and then I'm going to place it. See, here's my drawing skills at work. And I'm just going to draw right on there and go, okay, that looks about right.
That looks like a chopstick or something.
Yeah, actually, this is a dowel that I sanded down on one side. So there you go, another type of item that comes from the kitchen. So yeah, whenever sculptors like to get together and talk shop, and I just sometimes can't believe the ideas artists have about tools. I'm like, oh, that's a brilliant idea.
I go to the hardware store and my eyes are always like, how could I use that? How could I paint with that?
Exactly. So I'm just gonna try and go for the direction of the eye here, and I really want to get the lateral canthus up higher, because we always have a little bit of an angle going on. Maybe I'll just fine tune the shape of the eye there. So it's really important that the eye is spherical. And this is something that is often missed, is it's kind of, people just want to make the center of the eye round, but it actually does kind of bulge right at the center of where it's looking. It's not necessarily as obvious in this particular model by Michelangelo, but I
think my tendency would be to roll it up in a ball and then stick it in the hole.
Yeah, no, it's so much easier to set the eye and then really look at it from the side and find the front of it to figure out its depth, because everybody's eye depth is a little bit different. So if I place the pupil and the iris, really thinking about the cornea really and where it's looking. So he's really looking this direction. So I'm gonna constantly be reassessing, does it look like the eye is looking in a different direction? Nothing worse than getting your two eyes in, and one eye is looking this way and one eye is looking that way.
Well, that's how I am all the time.
Read like that, because the light is bouncing off of the surface of the eyeball, and it's showing what's happening, and so the eyes can look like they're doing that. So
okay, we have another guest from Brazil. James, welcome. We have Paris, somebody in Paris. Oh, it's Paris, Idaho.
Awesome.
And
Okay,
we
I'm
have
gonna.
Cochrane, Alberta, Canada. Welland, Ontario. Everybody's saying awesome to have sculpture on the show. I agree.
That's great. Any other questions about tools?
Somebody said your calipers must lock. Are they? How do you keep them?
These ones lock. They have a little wing nut here, so that I can. They get a little bit loosey goosey, and that drives me crazy. So I just tighten them and loosen them. Now my Italian calipers, they just slide on their own, so you can kind of see how. So occasionally I oil them, but they're wonderful, especially when I'm working at a smaller scale.
Somebody is sitting in a waiting room of a Chuy's restaurant watching you, waiting to go in and eat.
Yum.
See, we're open here in Texas.
That's great. We are not very open here.
Where are you?
I'm Seattle area.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Yeah.
Greetings from South Africa.
So I'm just gonna, let's see. I'm just placing the tarsal plate here. Now the gist of an upper and lower eyelid is that they are made of pretty thick cartilage. So a type of material that's similar to cartilage, and so it has a lot of uniformity to it. So it's really important to get this plane here.
Okay. Somebody on here, her name is, or he or she, TJ, said, I designed a sculpting tool that is sold by Complete Sculptor, the shop you mentioned. What's it called, TJ? Tell us what it's called. We'll look for it. My whole goal with this show is to help everybody, help them sell more paintings, help them make a living. We're all in this together. We need to get through it together.
Yeah, I've been mentoring students in both drawing and sculpture through Zoom, and both in students in Alabama, Texas, North Carolina, and it's just been amazing to see the progress they're able to make with the right guidance.
Yeah.
So I'm really placing this here. So yeah, coming up in February 13th, I'll be teaching a wall sculpt. We're gonna do a wall sculpture of the Pitti Tondo by Michelangelo, about 12 inches, and I have a 3D scan we're going to be working from.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So it's a great way to really understand drawing on a 2D plane, or sculpting three-dimensionally on a 2D plane.
Cool. Well, I have your website up on the screen so they can look and find out about these things. Question from the audience is, how's my son doing? He's fine. He's out of the hospital. He's recuperating and being a normal teenager already. So my son had heart surgery on Tuesday.
Oh man. Wow. He's already
not a major heart surgery, thankfully. I mean, it's all major, but
yeah,
there's no cutting involved really.
I thought so.
I don't do well with measuring, so I think you have to have a scientific mind.
My mom always said, "You got to learn math, Mardie." I was homeschooled for a good part of my growing up years.
And you're homeschooling your kids.
I am, yes. It's kind of a little bit of a deja vu.
I mean, is that because of
Yeah.
COVID or is it because you were
Yeah,
doing it anyway?
yeah, because of COVID. I just did not want him to do, I knew I couldn't handle remote learning. And so yesterday I got a little bored doing math. So I thought, I'm going to teach him perspective. Um, so we were starting with first 1 point perspective yesterday.
Oh, nice.
Just kind of cleared the dining table and thought, if there's any time they're going to learn something from me, it's now. And they seem more more interested in it as even since the fall. Just it really makes you a lot closer as a family when you have to work together.
My kids don't have any interest in what I do. It's interesting. They don't want to learn painting. Grace has got incredible talent. She'll walk in and she'll see a painting and she'll go, Dad, that's all wrong. And she's all right. And so she's got it in her if she wants to do it. I mean, just from being around, but they've never let me teach them anything.
Yeah. Now my kids haven't really been interested until more recently. So, I mean, and more recently, like in the last month. So.
Yeah, that's good.
Even though they draw all the time, the counter is always covered in drawings and that sort of thing in the kitchen. So, yeah, trying to really nail the dimensionality. So I'm wanting to get.
Yeah, turn it a little more into the light so we can see it. No, yeah, just turn it a little bit more.
Is that
there
good?
we go. Yeah, now we can see. Oh, good. You don't have to work on it that way. I know that's hard.
Okay, it is hard. It's actually quite hard for me to even stay still in this little space. I love to like step back and look at it from across the room and those sort of things. I'm a very active person. Maybe that's why I'm a sculptor.
If someone watching Tripithi from India, Bengaluru, your sculpting reminded me of sculpting I did on a chalk piece during my college days. Sculpting is fun. Yep.
Sculpting is so much fun.
Yeah, we get to be big kids doing all this.
You do get tired. I was working on an 8-foot sculpture for Shawnigan Lake School in Canada, and that was that's one of the biggest sculptures I've still done to date. And I quickly discovered how expression changes based on distance. So
what do you mean?
I really had to get off the scaffolding a lot and look at the sculpture from below. And what I would try to achieve in the lips in terms of a sense of determination would not read from below. He would look mad or whatever it was, and I'd have to go back up there and adjust it. And it was taught me a lot about expression and how things can be read from a distance. So
now you're sculpting something that's so big you have to get on a scaffolding.
Well, yeah, I was at a few years back. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It was 8 feet tall, so it was a Christopher Winsley Lonsdale and his German Shepherd dog, and I like working big. It is really hard on your arms and your bodies. You have to.
Yeah. So if somebody were watching and they said, I'd like you to sculpt a portrait of me and my German Shepherd or something, what do you do? How do you do that?
Well, you always start small. So you start with sketches, and then then you make a maquette, which is
What's the
French
maquette?
which is French for model. And you make a small version of what you're gonna make, because what you're gonna make is gonna cost a few tens of thousands to make. So they better like it, you know. And then once they approve that, then you begin the larger version. So you have it scaled up.
One of the questions from the audience is, if you were going to fire this, you would have to would you have to hollow it out?
Correct.
And high temp or low temp clay?
This is low temp. Yeah, this is terracotta. So like 06 is typically what you fire it at. I let it sit a long time.
Like how long?
Like a month or two.
Yeah.
And then I fire it. I was not
You
trained.
hollow it out before you let it sit?
Yeah. Yeah. So
Oh, this is really coming together.
When I teach classes, we'll work without an armature because it's just easier that way to not have to deal with an armature. So I'm trying to get the infraorbital furrow here, and this really has a nice definition of the lower plate here of the eye, inferior tarsal plate here. Guess I should get in and really define that eyelid shape.
I'm loving this.
The wet rag and just kind of wipe off my any clay that likes to collect. I'm gonna turn it.
Have you ever sculpted with resin and wood?
I have not. I have wanted to sculpt with wood. There's some amazing sculptures in wood that I just love. And I grew up a builder's daughter, so the smell of wood, oh, I just love the smell of wood. It smells so good.
I remember sculpting many years ago. As a matter of fact, I have it in here. I can show it to you. And I noticed that my hands started aching a lot because of the cold, wet clay. Is that a thing, or is that just something that happens to some people?
Well, you definitely have to build more muscles in your hands if you like to sculpt. I mean, nobody ever wants me to give them a massage because they're just like, because my hands are already strong. But yeah, there's definitely your hands really can get dried out quite a lot in water clay. You can just see how much I use my hands like constantly. So when I'm teaching a lot, I'll if I teach like all day and I'm helping students and working on their pieces, especially in the blocking stage where you're really like cutting things to size, my arms and my hands can really hurt. So I try to just mix it up as much as I can. So
it's very, very physical. It's a lot of hard work. If you guys are enjoying this, hit a like or a heart button. We are here every day. This is day 303. If you're new, here every day at 12 noon Eastern, also at 3 o'clock. I should mention today at 3 o'clock, we have a fabulous artist. Every day at 3 o'clock, we give samples of some of our art instruction videos. Today at 3 o'clock, the great Mike Hernandez, the animator from DreamWorks. And Mike is incredible, and you want to see his thing today at 3 o'clock. He is going to talk about creating drama with light and color, and this applies to any medium. And man, he really nails it. So you'll want to check that out at 3 o'clock today. We also give you, when we're showing these are samples of the videos that we've created. He's going to do this image here, and you can get a discount the day these things air. So that's a good thing. What I also mentioned to you guys, enter to win a Thomas Schaller painting. It's a $7,000 painting. Just go to paintinggiveaway.com anywhere in the world, as long as it's legal. And we're going to give away that during Watercolor Live, which is coming up next week. I'm going to be, I'll be here every day at noon. I'm going to be hosting that too. So I'm going to have to figure out how to do both. That's going to be challenging. But Watercolor Live is an event with essentially about 35 of the world's top watercolor artists. And it's going to be pretty spectacular. So if you are interested in that, check out watercolorlive.com. We're at almost 1,700 people attending, Mardie.
Wow. This is
It's the largest, I think it's the largest art conference in the world ever.
That's so cool. It's just amazing how much, I think even just in this COVID time, that people have kind of had to reevaluate what they love and what they want to do.
Yeah. Well, and we were talking before we went on air about how we've all had to kind of figure out ways to survive.
Yes. Yeah. I've kind of been developing the opportunities to get outside, and like I was telling you, taking my kids camping, and surf, our pools have been closed for a long time. So I've been surfing and trying to, even in cold water with booties and all of that, to really just be in water. I love just the I really like tactile things.
Obviously.
Uh-huh. So I'm really trying to get this upper eyelid to really roll back underneath there.
When I'm painting, I always have trouble with eyes.
Yeah, eyes are hard. And they say so much about somebody. So whenever we're, really trying to capture a portrait, if the eyes don't remind us of them, then it can be very frustrating. So there's this thing that happens really from the inner canthus tendon, where it kind of pulls straight like this as it's pulling, and then it turns and wraps around the eyeball, becomes spherical. And so this is a really important aspect of getting eyes, is really getting the feel of the eyelid against the sphere itself.
If you wanted to get a plaster cast of the eyeball like you're doing, where would you get something like that?
This one I got from Complete Sculptor.
Okay.
But you can also get it, the really nice versions come from the Caproni collection. I tend to get mine kind of covered in clay, and I wax them and stuff. So Complete Sculptor sells them for just a little bit less. They've been providing a lot of the pieces for my students to sculpt from, which has been really helpful, and providing the exact tools needed to take my classes. That's, I think, sometimes the most daunting part about learning to sculpt, is where do you start? Everybody's familiar with canvas and paintbrushes, but if you want to get into sculpture, yeah, we're familiar with Play-Doh, but that's kind of often the last time somebody worked in clay, really, or sculpted is elementary school.
The thing that has always confused me is about the structure. So if, for instance, sculpting a head, there needs to be something under it. You don't want it to be pure clay.
Exactly. Yeah, the armature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I've heard a lot of different theories on that. Somebody said you can sculpt over get an old, get like a styrofoam wig head, cut it down a little bit, put it on a pipe, sculpt
Yeah.
over that. I don't know if that's correct or not. I have one in my studio that I've been playing with.
Yeah, the best thing is really just some pipe, some 1/2 inch pipe,
Somewhat?
a 1/2 inch pipe, and a little wire on top, and you can just put your clay right on there. So.
Well, I put my wig head on a 1/2 inch pipe, so maybe I don't need the wig head.
No, you can always sculpt on top of foil.
Did you say foil?
Yeah.
Really?
Mhm. Yeah, there's so many different, but yeah, the pipe is the best for portraits. Just a pipe and some wire to kind of keep the clay from falling too
Uh-huh.
much. Mm-hmm.
So we got about 11 or 12 minutes.
Okay.
You're doing great. I
Any
hope you guys
questions
are
coming
enjoying
in?
this.
Are you able to see good?
Yeah, we can see it, especially
Good.
when you turn it toward the light. Maybe turn it
Yeah.
just next time, just turn it a little bit so they can see it. Now turn it the other way just so they can see the full effect. Okay, good. Very nice. Does the pipe go into a kiln?
No. If you're firing it, you would need to cut the clay head off.
What?
Mm-hmm. But if you're, I was trained as a bronze sculptor, so most everything that I make, this, for example, could get hollowed out and fired. But most everything I make is mold. I make a silicone mold off of it.
I see. So you're not gonna fire it anyway.
No, I'm not gonna fire it because I need a sculptor doesn't really makes money off of the second or third casting unless it's a commission. So, like a lot of my bronze pieces, I don't have a lot of them here because they're at Nedra Matucci Gallery in Santa Fe.
Well, I'll tell you, if you're in Nedra Matucci, you're a great artist because they only have the best.
Thank you. They're like family there for me, and yeah, they have.
I loved it when I'm in Santa Fe. I love to go in there. They always have such good stuff. That there's several great galleries there, and if I start naming names, I'll make sure I make all my friends mad.
Yep. Yeah, it's just such a beautiful place to see sculpture in every direction. The last time I really felt at home in that way was Italy. So, I just love just the appreciation of sculpture there.
When I was on we take a group of people on art trips every year, art collectors, and we take them to lots of unique experiences. One experience in Italy is we took them to a stone carving, essentially factory where they would do stone carvings of sculptures for various artists, and we had to sign something that we wouldn't take pictures of certain ones, but they had some work they were doing for a very famous artist. I can't mention the name because I signed something, but it was really cool to watch them how they carve these stones and marble, and it was pretty fascinating. There's a whole town right outside of Florence devoted to sculpture.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was just listening to a biography on Rodin, and all of the apprentices under Rodin said, if you want to really look at something that his fingers touched, look at his bronzes. So I thought that was really interesting because the marbles were tackled by marble masons, marble cutters. craftsmen. But the bronzes have your actual fingerprints. And that's true because any fingerprints on here will come out through in a wax and then end up in your bronze.
Now, here's a question from, it looks like Rishikesh. It might be India or Pakistan. It says Michelangelo used the golden ratio to determine relative size of body parts. How do you determine the relative size and shape of your subject? For instance, how do you determine the depth of your eyes?
How do I determine the depth of the eye? Most of the time, I work from life. So I'm actually, to be honest, I get a little bit bored working from photos. So I have to work from photos some when my model cannot be present, but I always place the depth of the eye and based on looking at them in relationship to their nose. So this is a little bit of a hard example to show, but yeah, I don't follow like a specific formula. I really use my eye to figure it out. And as you
So
become,
if you were sculpting me from life, would you actually come over and with your calipers and measure my head and my eyes and so on?
yes, I would.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anytime I have a model and for the first time I say, have you ever modeled for a sculptor? And usually they say no. And I say, okay, just so you're aware, I'm a little bit in your personal space because I actually measure the width of your nose and your ears and the depth of your head. And anytime I approach you, I'm going to say that I'm going to measure you so you're not concerned or think that there's a bug on you or something. And especially all students that come up and measure a model from behind and be like, you got to tell the model you're measuring them. But yeah, it's you're creating a version of them, in dimension. Nobody's ever seen themselves in dimension. We've seen flat versions of ourselves, right?
Yeah, we have a guy that came to Fall Color Week, one of my painters retreats. We had a model set up, and while I was painting, he sculpted me, and it was really weird to see myself in 3D. And
I think it's very strange. My first experience was in college. We were asked to pair up and sculpt each other, and I sculpted my friend Andrew Myers, and he sculpted me. And he said, "That's not my nose. My nose isn't that big." And I measured it, and it actually needed to come out a little bit farther. And he sculpted me, and I said, "That's not my neck. My neck isn't that skinny." And he measured it, and the neck needed to be a little bit skinnier. So, it's a true representation of yourself in some sense, like especially if you're measuring directly. So I'm going to just turn it so I can do some things here I need to do.
I should tell everybody that there's a great Rodin museum at Stanford University. If you've not been in Palo Alto, it's worth the trip. It's fabulous. It's a huge, huge collection. There's probably, I'd say 200-300 pieces. It's incredible. Probably the Rodin Museum is the only thing that comes close to it in Paris.
I didn't know that they had something there.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure it was some wealthy collector. Maybe, I think, maybe it was Hearst. I'm not sure.
Oh, yeah. Hearst has got some great,
If I were a billionaire, that's what I would do with my money. I'd have all kinds of paintings and sculpture and artwork.
Well, they're the ones that often you know, a lot of the reason why we have a lot of the art we have is because of the Catholic Church, you know. So if more people collected and made it available to the public, it would be pretty phenomenal what that would become.
Somebody asked if I have, excuse me, any sculptures coming up on Streamline Video. I don't know yet. I'll have to let you know. I guess the answer is no, not right now.
Yeah, you should get some more.
So we're coming down to your last 4 minutes.
Okay.
No pressure.
No pressure.
That's looking really great. Somebody said, well, I thought you were a billionaire. Yeah, right. Yeah, somebody else says get a lottery ticket.
Oh, God.
I don't buy lottery tickets.
Yeah.
I should tell you, I didn't mention this, but somebody in the comments said there's a great sculpture garden in New Jersey. I have a friend who owns I don't know if I should mention the company, but they do a lot of sculpting for Hollywood, and they're in another country. And I visited him, and he took me to his sculpture garden. All the people who work for him, who do all these sculptures for these famous movies, he had, you know, life-size giant sculptures in a park with about probably 50 or 75 big pieces. Absolutely incredible.
Well, if you want to see sculpture, Brook Green Gardens is really incredible for that.
What gardens?
Brook Green Gardens. Brook Green Gardens in North Carolina.
Okay. Brook Green in where in North Carolina?
They're near Myrtle Beach.
Okay. There's also a nice sculpture garden at the Society of Four Arts in Palm Beach. Very nice.
Yeah, Brook Green has a lot of 19th century sculpture. But some of my favorite things is to just try walk around some of the old cities like Boston, New York. And sometimes they have posted their public art locations, and you can figure out who made them and where they are.
Yeah. Well, listen, why don't we get you back on camera so we can wrap up?
Okay.
How about thumbs up and applause? Let's do a quick close up of that.
Okay.
If you could bring that closer. That's outstanding. That's fabulous. And Mardie, will you quickly just give us a little tour of your studio? Just a quick 1 minute tour.
Uh-huh.
All right. You guys like this? Thumbs up, applause. All right. Ooh. Ooh la la.
So here, I'll rotate it so you guys can kind of see.
What's upstairs? Is that you created a little shelf up there?
Yeah. Up there is my bodega, or storage space for all my molds. So probably if I had to have all that down here on the floor, I wouldn't have any space. So yeah, there's kind of my surfboard rack, my carriage doors.
Yeah, it looks like it's a beautiful space. The beautiful old windows. Is it an old house or?
Yeah. My husband and I designed and built it.
Nice.
And yeah, the stairs go up against the wall, and I have probably two or three easels, and everything's on wheels in here.
You're
I like
living the
to
dream.
store all my, this is where I do all my wax work over here next to Bob the skeleton. So I do a lot of my own wax chasing and that sort of thing.
I have a Bob the skeleton too.
Do you?
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah. As a matter of
Yeah.
fact, well, I can't quite
Nice.
turn the camera enough to do that, but
Yeah.
it's not going to turn. Anyway, yeah.
Well, there we go. So, yeah. Something happened to my sound. I can't hear. Yeah. I don't know what happened.
Okay. Is that you can hear
Oh,
me now?
there we go. Yes.
Okay. When I pulled a wire out when I tried to move my my camera around. Mardie, this has been fabulous. Thank you so much. You've inspired us all, and I think we're all going to want to go out and get our hands in some clay. I would encourage you guys to go to mardierees.com, REES, and look at all the beautiful things there. And if you're in a position to do so, support Mardie, buy something or attend a workshop or a class or something. That would be really terrific. You have been great. Thank you, Mardie.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you all for joining me this
That's sweet.
lunch hour.
All right. Lunch hour. Maybe we call it that. Well, lunch hour is now over. I just want to remind you guys that Watercolor Live is next week. We have a beginner's day, which is relatively inexpensive. You could just do a 1 day, slip in, take that 1 day, learn about watercolor. I'm trying to learn it because I do plein air and I can't always carry my oils, and I want to get better at it. And so that's next week starting Wednesday. But the price increase happens on this Sunday. You can still save $300. After Sunday, after midnight Sunday, you would have to pay the full retail price. So we've got almost 1,700 people signed up, and it's going to be amazing. We got the world's greatest artists, and we've got some big surprises inside too. Also, we have a painting to give away. It's a Thomas Schaller painting. It's a $7,000 painting, and you can enter to win it. You don't have to go to Watercolor Live to do that, but you can. Of course, we're going to give it away during Watercolor Live. Just go to paintinggiveaway.com. I'd love for you guys to watch Mike Hernandez today at 3 o'clock, creating drama with light and color, in case you missed me talking about that earlier. And it would be really terrific if you would follow me, Eric Rhoads, on Instagram and Facebook and so on. That would be really terrific. Okay, so that's what we've got for today. Thumbs up and applause for Mardie Rees. Mardie, you were a rock star. We really appreciate it. And thank you guys for tuning in. This is day 303, 303 essentially in a row, 7 days a week for the 3 o'clock, and now 5 days a week for the 12 noon, although I did 7 months or 6 months, 8 months, I don't remember, straight 7 days a week. And so we're trying to be there for you. It looks like this thing might be calming down a little bit. God willing, we'll all be free again, and we can go to things like the plein air convention or the, get out and paint, just do the things that we love. And so thank you for tuning in. Remember to keep your head in the game. Stay positive, stay upbeat. Don't let the negativity of the world bring you down. We're here to support you and to support each other. We'd love for you to get involved in the comments, get to know each other, and become one big art family. And those of you who are watching, we would appreciate it if you would hit the share button. When you do that, it really makes a big difference, because you may have other friends who need to discover art, may want to learn how to paint or sculpt, or just be curious about it, and they won't discover it unless you share it. And so that's really helpful. Those of you watching in other countries and you're artists, chances are you have a lot of artists following you, and we want the world to kind of get together and be here every day. Even if you can't be here live, you can watch the replay. Thank you again, and we will see you. Let's see, what is today? Is today Friday? Let's see here. Yeah, it's Friday. Well, I'll be back on Monday. And remember, next week is Watercolor Live. Have a terrific day and take care. Bye-bye.